fast, furious, and incredibly expensive.
To be honest, you try not to think about how much they cost.
Can a team move 15 of these highly strung thoroughbreds over 10,000 kilometers from England to Hong Kong?
Moving horses does involve a lot of risks. I've seen things you can't believe what they can do.
Happy Valley in Hong Kong is one of the most lucrative racing tracks in the world. Each season, punters bet almost $10 billion on these horses.
The Chinese, as we know, are prolific gamblers anywhere. Hong Kong racing twice a week, televised, a very, very important part of the Hong Kong way of life.
A winning horse can earn up to $1 million a race. There's just one problem. There's no room on this crowded island to breed these thoroughbreds. They all have to be imported. Moving these precious animals requires careful planning, and the first stage is ensuring you pick the right horse to bring over to Hong Kong. No trainer has won more races and money than John Moore.
As we enter the stable here, you can see just how successful the stable's been. The one you can see right up here, the Audemars Piguet, was won by Viva Bataka. This is one of the top 3 horses in Hong Kong collection. He won the Gold Cup this year. He won the Derby when I first got him. He's now the top-rated horse in Hong Kong.
John hopes to set a new record and for the first time in his career earn more than 100 million Hong Kong dollars in a single season. That's almost 13 million US dollars.
My stable has just gone right to the top, and we're a leading prize money stable now, with the most group winners in one season.
Last year, John's stable won 96 million Hong Kong dollars, but he can't rely on past winners. The tracks here are tough for thoroughbreds. The going is firm, and this takes its toll on a horse's legs. The tight corners put further pressure on their knee joints.
The English tracks, a lot of them are just straight uphill, down dale, and not so many turns in them. But in Hong Kong, we go around circles. They suffer leg injuries, they suffer fractures, they have a very short lifetime. There is an average. It was probably about 4 years or 4 seasons, and for that reason, I've got to keep replenishing the stable numbers. We look abroad because, everything is imported into Hong Kong. There's no breeding or anything. No, we have to go overseas and we have to source the individuals.
The largest collection of racehorses anywhere in the world is in Newmarket, England. Twice a week, over 1,000 horses are put through their paces on Warren Hill. Many finding their way to the town's famous Tattersall's auction house, the oldest thoroughbred auctioneers in the world. John joins the bidding remotely from Hong Kong. He pays just over $160,000 for a horse named One Good Emperor. But there's another horse that's caught his eye, a 3-year-old called Business as Usual.
He was valued at $350, $400, that was it, that was the limit. But then you've got a horse that's got presence, you've got a horse that's got form on the board, scope there and everything. People are going to pay probably 100,000 guineas more than his right price. And for that reason, I had to keep bidding.
John eventually pays 460,000 guineas, or 770,000 US dollars for Business as Usual, a high premium. He must now find a way to get his valuable investment from the heart of the English countryside to the southeastern tip of China, over 10,000 kilometers away. Horses are notoriously skittish. They can panic and kick if confined for more than a few days in a truck. So John will fly out his racehorses on a specially adapted Boeing 747. They will travel with 14 other thoroughbreds, boarding at London Stansted. The one-way tickets cost $8,000 per animal. These flights are not without danger. In 1987, an aircraft carrying 18 horses crashed onto a highway outside Mexico City. The cargo stalls inside the plane shifted during the flight. It's not clear whether the horses became frightened and tried to break out, but only 2 horses survived.
Moving horses from country to country does involve a lot of risks. We have had instances in the past where we've lost 1 or 2 horses. In the first instance, a youngster broke a hip and he had to be euthanized. And then there have been instances when they arrive here because of illnesses and they had to be put down.
The stakes are high. If neither of the horses make it, John could struggle to compete this season.
It's always great to be able to buy the top-class horse in Europe, and that getting them into the stable is my greatest sigh of relief.
Before his 2 horses board the flight to Hong Kong, they undergo careful monitoring at Hillwood Stud in Wiltshire.
Good to be back again.
John's come over to England to see the thoroughbreds he's bought for the first time.
How are the horses doing since they've arrived in the stable?
Having spent almost $1 million on 2 horses, he wants to make sure they're both fit to fly. First up, One Good Emperor.
Looks very, very well.
John looks for the slightest sign of jumpiness. With such huge sums at stake, he will only allow a horse to fly if it remains calm at all times.
Striking type.
All looks well.
Thank you very much, dear.
Until, as he's being led away, John notices a slight reaction.
He's a bit quirky. This could be the type of horse that could be a little bit troublesome. Was a little quirky, a little bit nervy type, and I don't think he would travel that well right now. I'll delay the shipment. I think it would benefit the horse to stay here a bit longer, and he mightn't be as quirky and touchy and jumpy and nervy and God knows what.
His hopes now rest on business as usual.
Okay, we'll bring out the big boy.
Business as usual.
This is business as usual.
The racing season starts in just a few months. He can't afford to come home empty-handed.
This has just got the classic look about him, this fella. He just looks like he's a group horse.
Yeah.
This one's got Derby written all over him. He's bred to go the Derby distance. I'm thrilled with what I'm seeing here. Even though it did cost 460,000 guineas, boy, I wouldn't want anything to happen to this fella. I'm a very lucky man. Just to put it in one word, he was classic type, which means a great-looking individual, looks a likely type to go on to win races for me in Hong Kong. I'd like to get him in and get him acclimatised.
Bring him out.
The next stage in the move is to transfer business as usual to a quarantine facility near Stansted Airport. He will have to spend 3 weeks in isolation to make sure he's not carrying any dangerous viruses. Only then will he receive a health certificate, allowing him to leave the country. Bobby Jones picks him up for the 3-hour journey.
One of us will just stop with him for 10 minutes going down the road, make sure he is okay. When I'm driving, you can feel the horses. If you know you're coming to a bend and they're leaning the wrong way, if you're not careful, you can just tip them right over. People are inclined to think that they're all strapped in, but they're actually just standing there. We've got CCTV in there, we keep an eye on him at all times.
Horses travel best if they're kept moving. Bobby must make sure he avoids hold-ups.
We've had the odd racehorse that when you stop in traffic or whatever, they'll get agitated and start crashing and banging about. You sometimes get horses panic and they'll jump out and get halfway over the breast bar. Once you get going again, they're all right.
Confining a horse inside a box for too long can damage its health. Bobby's daughter Di will be looking after business as usual on the journey to Hong Kong.
He looks a nice big type of horse, yeah, plenty of bone. He's got a good amount of condition on him. He looks very happy. He looks like a very nice sort of person as well, which makes my job easier if they're compliant. Oh, they're not too bad. 519 kilograms. That's a pretty good weight. In he goes.
This is one of the most valuable horses Di has ever cared for.
To be honest, you try not to think about how much they cost. It does cross your mind when you're leading him along and he jumps and kicks and starts dragging you out. I really don't want to let this one go.
A former winning jockey herself, Di realizes the huge responsibility that rests on her shoulders.
I take my horses very personally. If people are critical about my horses, they might as well be critical about my child or my hair or anything else. A lot of people are banking on me doing my job well, and people's reputations rest on how I turn the horses out.
The quarantine area is strictly controlled. From now on, business as usual, and the 14 other horses due to fly to Hong Kong are kept behind bars. For the next 3 weeks, only key people are allowed contact with these animals. One of these is veterinarian Sally Benton.
So this is him then?
Yeah, business as usual.
Sally checks his medical history. She makes sure the number in his passport matches his unique code, embedded under his skin in a microchip.
That matches his number. It is business as usual. Come today as the official veterinarian to check they're fit to travel. If a horse tests positive for any of these tests, they get taken out of the quarantine, so they have to be negative before they can fulfil the requirements to travel to Hong Kong.
If they were to carry a disease abroad, the consequences could be disastrous. In Hong Kong, John's vet Ben Mason recalls the last epidemic here.
Back in the 90s, we had an incident. We had a herpes outbreak amongst the racehorses here in the general population. The club lost $30 billion for lack of racing for just over those few months.
It was an epidemic and it spread like wildfire. It was just amazing. I watched it actually happen in my stable. There was a certain number of horses that had to be put down.
The club's main business is racing, and we cannot afford to miss one race meet just because of horse disease.
The infected horses were imported from England and Ireland in 1992. The veterinary team must make sure this doesn't happen again.
Okay, we'll just check his temperature.
One of the first things on Sally's checklist is equine flu.
It's a nasal swab up the nose. We'd certainly have to go up to the back of the throat. I think we need a foot.
The horse knocks the swab from Sally's hand. Bobby steps in to try to restrain business as usual for a second attempt.
There we go. Yeah, got him. Yeah, you're right. Excellent. Okay.
Sally also takes blood samples to test for a variety of diseases.
We do obviously encounter horses that are very resistant to being injected. Good job. Just like humans don't like being injected. Already samples to go back to the clinic, so we'd best rush them back to our lab to get those done.
The horses will fly from Stansted. Over 2,000 animals fly in and out of this airport each year. Thoroughbred horses are among their most difficult travellers. That's because of their immense strength. 60% of their body mass is muscle. Much of this muscle converges around their hind legs. This gives them the huge thrust that enables them to run so fast. But it also means they can kick with tremendous force. And the kick is powerful enough to damage an aircraft fuselage. To prevent this, the horses travel in specially designed stalls made from reinforced plywood and fiberglass. The thoroughbreds are separated to prevent them from injuring each other. Jeremy Instone's family business has been building air crates for 30 years.
If you have a horse that's highly strung, he can kick. The whole stall has to be built to withstand any damage, any horse that may go berserk in a horse stall.
The dividers can be adjusted. Horses travelling first class get extra legroom. The bathroom facilities are built in to avoid damage to the aircraft.
Well, urine is an acid, and it will basically eat into the aluminium on an aircraft. Very important for airlines that no urine can leak out. The floor is made up of a rubber-type compound, and this forms a completely leak-proof seal around the bottom of the container. This container is one we've just built. It's getting to the end of the production stage. Another 2 to 3 days and it'll be finished and ready to enter service.
In Hong Kong, John Moore prepares for the arrival of business as usual. He's always concerned that new horses may struggle to adapt to the heat and humidity here.
We're just hoping when they arrive here that they can stand up to the environment and be productive. A lot of horses will come into Hong Kong and won't be able to adapt and they don't perform. We just have to replace them. You'd be surprised what horses will do. They're very bored in this lifestyle. They'll eat that, or tear, get caught. I've seen horses get here and tear the whole thing out. I've seen things you can't believe what they can do. They'll eat the timber off the walls. Have a look. You know, that's out of boredom. You can see the walls, you know, their teeth and everything. You live here 22 and a half hours. It gets very boring. This is the box we're going to use for business as usual. As you can see, we've disinfected the box right around with hospital disinfectant. On top of this rubber base, we're going to add paper as bedding, so the horse at least gets to read about himself every day of the week.
Back in England, it's 3 in the morning and the day of the big move. The flight departs at 9 a.m.
It gets all a little frantic when they get here. They like to bustle and get along, so I'm flapping.
He's going in here far side.
Sean Stamp is one of the 3 grooms who'll be looking after the horses on the flight.
We need to be at the airport for 6. We've got to be there sort of 3 hours before at least, especially with this amount of horses as well.
The horses may seem calm, but Sean's taking no chances.
You always have equipment put in the mouth. If they start messing around, you've got some form of control over them. You know, just get over them and lead them on, really.
First to lead is business as usual.
Here we go. Nice and down.
It takes over an hour to load all 15 horses.
Mind your back, boys.
For the next 16 hours, they will be confined in a small space with no exercise. A stressful experience for any racehorse. Shipping fever, a common bacterial infection, is always a fear when they're in the air beyond medical help.
Must be about 4:30. All went on really well. One or two of them got a little bit excited, but that's only to be expected.
You ready then?
I think so. We'll see you at the airport, yeah? We've got to get cracking.
The journey to Hong Kong has begun. They arrive at Stansted at 6 a.m. Their flight departs from the freight terminal. The grooms must hope the bustle of activity doesn't rile the animals.
Horses are all fine. They've all been remarkably quiet and well behaved. Usually you'd hear quite a bit of kicking and banging and a bit of calling, but they've been really good. Main thing's to get them there in one piece.
You can stick it here if you like, mate.
The in-flight meals are ready to be loaded.
Making sure that their diet is right is pretty important, or you could be looking at a fatality.
Horses eat up to 9 kilos of hay a day. To digest this, they need 45 litres of water. This produces an acid in the gut that breaks down the hay. Carrying open water troughs on a plane is impractical. But without water, hay will clog the intestine, causing a painful blockage that can require surgical intervention. To prevent dehydration, they use an ingenious feed called haylage, which contains up to 50% water and is made by fermenting hay for 2 weeks.
It's more easy for them to digest. A bit like you trying to eat dry breakfast cereal or putting a bit of milk on it.
The horses will need 68 kilos of haylage for their in-flight meals. They'll have constant access to this feed throughout the flight.
It's tighter packed, so it takes longer to eat, and it's dust-free, yeah. So it's better quality.
Yeah, it's better for the respiratory systems, and like Sean said, anything that's damp that keeps them hydrated is good.
It's 6:30 a.m. and the team wants to start loading the horses.
Can we have the stalls out soon? Because we need to set that. It's going to take a while to set all this up, you know? Please. The stalls are in the warehouse at the moment for security reasons. They'll be brought out when it's time to start loading with a man keeping an eye on us. We're going to probably start about 7:15. As soon as they come and give us a shout, we shall start loading them and off we go. Hey, hey, hey! Hey, 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 hey!
The longer they wait, the more restless the horses become.
They probably think something's up. They won't be used to standing still on a horse box for this amount of time.
Having an argument. They're getting a bit bored.
But there's still no sign of the air stalls.
I've had some free time then. Here we go. Better crack on.
It's just after 7:30. The flight departs in less than 90 minutes.
Straight down here. Straight tight here, yeah? And go right to the end, can you? That'll do, that'll do.
Before loading the animals, they prepare the stalls. Wood shavings are like kitty litter for horses.
The shavings helps them get a firm footing. They don't like splashing their legs. They won't wee if they think they're going to get their legs splashed. So they have that on there.
While setting up one of the older air stalls, Sean spots a problem.
The side of the stall's broken, so if the horse kicks off or lays on it, it'll, well, I don't know what that means, it may fall out. Basically, the whole thing's on the move. You're going to use another stall. Got a little bit of a problem. The whole of the side is moving, it's not attached to anything. Yeah, it's just too dangerous to take. If someone lays on it, it'll fall out. All right, mate. Thanks, bye.
Is that all right?
Yeah, can we, whichever stall's easiest for you?
Maybe this one, that one. That one's right.
All right, so can we have this stall?
They find a new stall and are finally ready.
There you go.
The sharp edges of the loading ramps are a real danger during the transfer. One knock and these animals may never race again. The entire weight of a horse rests on 4 thin bones, the cannon bones. Each one supports 100 kilograms. If one leg is damaged, it's difficult for the other legs to cope with the extra weight, and the hooves can become inflamed. With no muscles below the knee, the legs receive little blood flow to help healing. In some cases, injured horses are put down. To prevent injury during loading, the grooms fit padded guards around the front legs.
Shall we start loading then? We're ready when you're ready, yeah?
Groom Sally leads out the first horse.
Go on.
She tries again.
Pushing back, Sally, please.
Next, it's Di's turn.
Hey, I don't think.
She too needs another go.
Watch, go on, get there, go on. Get there, go on. Get in there. Go on.
And things only get worse.
Come on, let's get up. Go on, son. Go on.
They're working against the clock, but they have to be careful.
Go on, I'll get him this side.
These horses are worth $4 million.
Go on.
Nice to see. Got it all. Come on.
You in?
3 down, 12 to go.
Got business as usual. I'm just waiting our turn. I'll wait till they give me a shout. Hopefully he'll just walk straight across there and behave himself. And he's good. Sometimes they get a little bit upset when the first 2 go and they're over this side, but he hasn't worried too much about his friends leaving him. He's sort of quite a confident chap, only really worries about number 1.
Business as usual lives up to his name.
All right.
Good chap. Brave man, aren't you? I'm a friend in a minute. Having a sniff, see if they know each other. No, come on, you'll be a big scream in a minute. No.
Just tighten up the A-nets. There you go, little fella. Just keeps them that little bit quieter, you know. A bit like dogs, you know, you feed them 2 separate bowls, but they'll all eat out the same one.
8 a.m. The horses are already kicking the air stall. And they're not even on the plane yet.
him in the middle. He's usually a wimp.
Give me that.
It's not like
They race to load the remaining horses.
There you go, sorry.
Last up is Zabaleta. He seems to be limping.
This is late. Yep.
The nails on his front shoe are loose, but there's no time to replace them.
Pricked his foot, I think.
They take the shoe off.
All the horses are in. We're ready to go round.
The grooms travel with the horses to make sure they're all right. The horses are now ready to fly, but the grooms still have to check in.
Hiya, can I pick your boarding pass up? Thank you very much.
The grooms prefer not to drug the horses during the flight to reduce the risk of respiratory failure, but they do bring emergency medical supplies just in case.
You can get a horse get a bit fractious and maybe slightly kick off or whatever. We do carry a few tranquilizers and stuff. If there is a bit of a problem, we can hopefully sort it out.
Just as they clear security, the first lot of horses drives off without them.
Hang on, whoa! Get it, you've got to get in this time.
The cargo crew has 30 minutes to load the stalls onto the aircraft. It's a Boeing 747, the same jumbo jet passengers use, but without the seats.
We're about to get loaded to the plane and then hopefully go and take off very shortly. This is definitely economy.
The layout of the stalls inside the plane is critical. Each crate weighs 2,000 kilograms. To even out the load, all 5 crates need to sit in a line. They must bolt each stall to the fuselage to prevent them from shifting around if the plane hits turbulence or if the animals become restless. The grooms sit above the cargo hold. There's a staircase that allows them to check on the horses throughout the flight.
The horse stall's already pre-weighed and the loadmaster on board will work out the weight and balance and put the horses in certain positions on the aircraft.
1 down, 4 more to go. Once on board, the grooms soon feel the tremendous heat generated by the horses.
That's the biggest trouble, is keeping the temperature down.
If you put your head in here, how warm it gets with 3 horses is unbelievable. It can be as much as 15 degrees warmer in here than it is out there.
The grooms share the same air as the horses, but at least they have emergency oxygen if there's sudden decompression.
Yeah, every time we come down, we've got to take an oxygen bowl with us, just in case of decompression, which hopefully will never happen, but obviously it has happened. We haven't got oxygen bowls for the horses, so, you know, it's a case of look after the humans, I'm afraid.
the next 12 hours, Di will act as an air hostess for her equine passengers.
I suppose an equine air hostess I shall be for a few hours. They've behaved themselves really well so far, so they seem like they've settled in and they're eating their hay and they've got to know the horses around them, ready to go.
They finally take off.
The flight this morning is just one cog in a big wheel, basically. Business as usual.
On arrival in Hong Kong, the horses will be transferred to this quarantine facility for 2 weeks before being allowed to join their trainers. There's a small possibility the horses may have picked up a virus on the flight. With over 1,500 valuable racehorses in Hong Kong, there's too much at stake to take chances. And that line of defense starts even before they come off the plane. Nicole Arnoux is the quarantine manager organizing the horses' pickup.
The truck is thoroughly cleaned with antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral disinfectant. It's cleaned thoroughly inside and outside, and all the boxes, even the wheels, are thoroughly cleaned and disinfected before we pick the horses up. There's actually potential risk on the plane or during the transport from England. That's why every step we need to take to prevent any contamination.
At 3 a.m., the horse boxes arrive at Hong Kong International Airport to pick up their passengers. But the plane is late.
Okay, delay. All the team is standby for the job.
An hour later, the plane arrives.
Horses have travelled really well. Yeah, they were quite relaxed, and all of a sudden they've got lights and movement and crashing about, and they know that they're going to be coming off soon, so they're wanting to get on with it now. The fella on the far side's been really good, and business as usual's been really good, so the grey horse is between two quiet ones. He's a little bit fidgety. I think he's just about had enough now.
Before dawn, it's already 28 degrees Celsius. The average summer temperature in Hong Kong is 31 degrees, compared to just 21 degrees in England. So the grooms want to transfer the horses to the temperature-controlled trucks as soon as possible. Business as usual looks as calm and serene as ever. It's the last time Di will see these horses.
Say goodbye to my boys. Yeah, the last ones have just gone on. Nice air-conditioned truck though, I'm very impressed. We're off to the hotel for a couple of hours and flying back tonight.
They speed through Hong Kong to the quarantine facility where the horses will finally be able to stretch their legs. At 6 a.m, Nicole and vet Ben are there to greet the new arrivals.
Good, business as usual from England.
Fantastic. Well, he seems to arrive in good health.
Like, was it 12 hours on the flight?
These 12 hours.
Yeah.
It means he's been on the go for about 16 to 20 hours.
Take his temperature?
Take his temperature straight away for shipping fever.
Yeah.
Get him something to drink straight away. He's bright and alert.
Yeah.
He looks very well.
So good, isn't he?
Okay, let's get him into the stable.
That's
giving you a kiss.
Horses talk. Sniff each other's nostril.
Ben knows that run-down horses are prone to infection.
They get stressed with changes in environment, especially after a long, stressful flight. And it's very difficult to fight infection when your immune system's not 100%. Once we are stressed, we end up with cold sores on our lips, where you have a run-down throat, we're coughing. Horses are very much the same. They're just like humans. So the 2 weeks of quarantine here is just to basically supervise all these horses after they arrive.
The last of these valuable racehorses is unloaded into the tightly guarded quarantine area.
We have a concrete perimeter wall which goes right round the quarantine facility to stop anyone coming in. We have security cameras in every barn where all the horses are, and also we have security guards basically walking around the quarantine site as well.
After completing 2 weeks quarantine, business as usual finally enters John Moore's famous stable.
Yeah, bring him round. Business as usual has had numerous amount of testing done for infectious diseases, and I've actually got his results here. And he's come back with negative for all those different diseases, which is great. He's now in a stable environment with other horses, which he's going to basically live with for the next, hopefully, few years. John will now very gradually introduce him to some training exercise. We'll start with a bit of walking, then trotting, to full galloping, and you're looking at a race in a few months' time.
6 weeks later, John's champion jockey Darren Beedman prepares to ride business as usual for the first time.
What I really look for in a horse when I first lay eyes on it is a horse's attitude, how comfortable he feels underneath you when he's galloping, and then when you ask him for an effort, whether he quickens and he's got that acceleration. So it's a combination of attitude and what's inside. Hopefully they've got a V12.
John waits anxiously in the tower.
I'm looking out for the horse just to run the time that is in keeping with the horse's fitness levels at the present moment. We just want to see his demeanour on the racetrack.
In Hong Kong, track time is so precious that most horses only get to run at full gallop once a week. For new arrivals like business as usual, it will take time to get used to this new regime.
Nice work. Happy with that. How do you think he felt when he came down the straight?
Attitude, he's got a little bit of work to do there, but we can work on that. Tune him down.
Tune him down a bit, yeah.
He's got a lovely stride, he's nicely balanced. When I asked him for an effort, he quickened nicely, so he's got all the right attributes, but he's still learning.
But so far so good, and the investment looks like it's going the right way. Let's go and have some breakfast, and I think we've done our job this morning.
That's it, yeah, that's done.
In 2 months' time, business as usual will line up for his first race at Happy Valley. John hopes this thoroughbred will help him break the 100 million Hong Kong dollar barrier in season winnings.
If he won an international race, let's say the 2,000 metre Invitation Cup, then that race I think is valued at 22 million, so he would pick up 12 or 13 million. That's a lot of money, and gives the owner a chance to recoup what he spent with a bit of change.